Okay, my friends, major revelation by scientists. We may have been all wrong about ancient Egyptian mummies, scholars argue. Well, they're starting to come around. Alright, this one here is going to be what you want to look at because it has Tish Egerton's foot and all that stuff in it. But now I'm going to show you the leg and so forth. You know, the name of this is To Teach the Children Well, It Is Truth That You Must Tell and Look as Well. Alright, this is the leg from Tish. And it's got all that same stuff built into it. And it's broken right off up here, exactly where you would expect the abrupt transition to break. And I can see all of the tendon investments back in here, which are nothing more, if you could look up right in there and see those little tiny holes. I don't know if you can or not. I could put it in a microscope and show you, but all it is these bones just like this, coming down, and all those little tiny holes, all in there, are where the tendons locked in so that this bone could move back and forth on your foot. That's the back of the foot, and that's where all those tendons come together, as you can see. Right, all they are is little tiny straps, and they come down. Now they're mostly gone on the one here, but the side plates, it's made differently. Let me put it that way. It's a different construction. All right, this is all biological in here, and then they have these side plates, and they come up, and the tendon runs down basically on the sides and in the middle. But you see all these little tiny holes? You see those? Those are the same as the little tiny holes that are in this. That's how the tendons lock in. And that's the only way your bones can move up and down like this. This is all biological. I'm going to put some catalase on there. And, whoops, you can see up above there. That's all biological up there. That's all blood and gore. Now, this was a pretty good sized creature. This part broke off. Well, it's basically falling apart, but what do you expect? You'd fall apart too. You've been locked away that long in the woods, in the mud. Now, she just walked out and found these. Absolutely incredible. This is a lung. That has nothing to do with this. I was using it to stabilize this piece right here. But this was constructed of some, I don't know who constructed it, but somebody did. You see all the black and the red? That's the vein in the artery. That's very, very obvious what it is to anybody that understands mud fossils. And I've been doing this 12 years minimum, and I understand them. That is biology. Okay, I think I showed you another picture of this foot, but this is all tendinous material, and then in the back, of course, you see all the bloody stuff. And all of this is where the tendons came down and locked in at the bottom. That's what bones do. They have all these little tiny holes. If you ever notice on a bone, there's little tiny holes, and what they are is where the tendon balls lock in. And I mean, there's a million tendon balls. And then all of these little straps run up, and then they break right off flat as a pancake because of what's called an abrupt transition. You see that straight across? This is very, very obvious to me that this was a leg of some gigantic creature. I mean, huge. Huge. And it's engineered. It's not just your normal foot from a normal foot. And then, of course, we have the no-toes. And there was several different styles. I have 3 different styles here that are all look like human to me. And then Tish, I don't know if hers is exactly the same as mine. She's got the one with the springs in it. So, we've got a lot of thinking to do. Okay, here, this is that foot, and this is the top of the leg. We're going to be looking at the tendon coming down into the flesh. I have to turn the lights off so that we'll be able to see it okay, and it takes a second for it to settle in here. All right, now, what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at tendon. All right, now I'm going to move it until it hits the muscle right here. You see, tendon attaches to muscle. Hold on. muscle is the red, bloody stuff. The tendon is a very tough, fibrous, really strappy stuff. Now, let's look at this and see if we can get a catalase reaction, which would indicate that, see that? That's red blood. I don't care what anybody says. I'd be very surprised if we don't get a catalase reaction. It may take a while because this was exposed to the air for probably thousands of years. Now, let's take a look. Okay, keep an eye on that. You'll see a little bubbling come up. You see it? Buzzing around there. Okay, this is off the charts too cool. This is the no-toe. It's leather. It's nothing more than leather, just like my belt. This is an area where it got scraped away. This is the top surface. The bottom surface is the same. It's just, it's got all that fabric in it, which is what's your skin is loaded with this kind of tissue. That makes it stretch and so forth, and it's on lungs and everything else. I have a lung here that I'll show you, I'm sure, that has all of the same type of fabric in it. It's called collagens and kerogens and keratins. They're stretchy fibers that allow your body to move and so forth. And all these little black balls are what lock in the fabric so that you can stretch and it will come back. All right, this is my belt. It's just tanned cowhide, which means they roll it and scrape it and everything. And they crushed all these little black balls. But all the straps are still in here. That's why it flexes in fabric. Otherwise, it just fall apart. Now, where are those little straps? Well, there's a hole, one of my belt buckles. And here's the one where it pulls a little bit. You see, there's all the little fibers. Every fiber attaches to one of these black balls. That's what lets leather move around. You're talking about flexible stone. Flexible stone is nothing more than that. Here's another one. This is Phil Harris. He went out and found this 15 minutes from taking the challenge. I challenge everybody on my channel. If you can't find it, let me know. Everybody found something. He just hit this with he saw this red spot, hit it with a hammer. It broke right open right on the ventricle. You saw how red it was when he just broke it open in the beginning. This was only, I think he told me an hour, maybe 2 hours after. Almost all the red was gone. That's what's called oxidation. The blood, that's why your blood changes in your body and absorbs oxygen. And it gives up oxygen. You see this? When you first saw it, it was just saturated with very, very deep red. That means it's heavy with oxygen, FeO3, Fe2O3. The O3 means the 3 oxygens. When it gets in this state, it has 2 oxygens. What does that mean? It means that the air passing across that red surface took one of those oxygens away. I would have thought it would be just the opposite. In your blood, it wants to absorb oxygen. I would have thought the red would have stayed red being out in the air, but no, it turned almost, that's really blue. And that's exactly what they say in your body, it turns blue, you see it? See the difference? I'm a little perplexed about that, to be perfectly honest. All right, this is a mummy, I believe, that's inside of a statue. And they were big. Take a look at this. This was, I believe, that same statue, only the other side is broken and worn off. It's a huge statue. And there's the guy's chest. And there's his lung. And there's the ribs. Now, it may not be the same statue. I'm not certain. This was from a Brian Forrester video. But you can actually see the lobes of the lung in here. Those are the alveoli. And those are the ribs. And that's the chest cavity. And it's just, as a matter of fact, here it is right down here. Very strange weathering. And Brian Forrester had this in one of his videos. And I've seen a lot of his stuff. He does some great stuff, but you got to really, you know, he didn't like it, I don't think, when I said, Brian, I'd like to talk to you about this. So we don't really talk. But he's got a lot of stuff I look at, and I think I understand it. Even like the pyramids. I understand how the pyramids were built. they weren't built from the bottom up. All right, I made this mud fossil. It took about, I don't know, a couple of months, and I didn't do it right either. But I could see that it was starting to turn into, you know, like the skin here. See, in certain places it was starting to turn into mud fossil stone areas, and then the tendon you can see was not affected at all hardly because there's almost no biology in here. But in here it was taking on these transition metals. You see it? So it was going to transition. Down here was a different area in the. It was a piece of chicken, and in here where the blood was, where we're getting transition metal reactions, that's you're going to end up with a mud fossil like this. You know, when it's done, it'll be something similar like that. All right. Anyway, this is not hard to do. It's easy to do. All right. I've often spoke of Ovid, O-V-I-D. He wrote the first books basically about the creation of the earth and all that stuff. And he says often violence inflicted upon a victim whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. This is all about the creation of earth. Here's the books he wrote. The creation, ages of mankind, the flood, Deucalion, who was Noah, Pyrrha, his wife, Apollo, all the Greeks, all of these gods. These were the original gods. And the other one you want to read is Apollodorus. Blow your mind right out of your head, but right now I am looking like it's pretty close to true. I'm not going to read it because all it is exactly what they said in Greek myth about Gaia and about Uranus and Kronos and Zeus and all that stuff. This is exactly what it says. And this is in Apollodorus. And Apollodorus 1, Book 1, Chapter 6, Section 3 talks about Typhon. That's the dragon of North Africa.